Simone. I'm excited to be with you here today. Today, we are going to be discussing, as people with a tech right or new right perspective, is Bluesky a good thing or a bad thing? Because part of me feels a bit like there was this meme for a while that the left was going to be banished in crystals and that we were going to trap them there under the Trump administration. And with Bluesky, it's like it came through. It's like in Superman, where the enemy is banished to a crystal and then shot into outer space where they can't interact with anyone else. And they're like, no more harm. But then on the other side, you're like, well, is it really good to like isolate these communities where they can radicalize?
Did we want this?
Everyone likes me and thinks I'm great in my safe space.
My safe space. That people forget how bad these communities used to be and do not remember like how evil leftists actually are. And because we've heard, you were on NPR and the guy was like, oh, no normal leftist would ever say that. And you're like, literally every day somebody says I'm a Nazi. Like, I know you say no normal leftist would ever say this, but they do. So first, I want to get into what I mean by all of this. So Bluesky, if you just look at the numbers and you're not being delusional, but we will go into the rest of the numbers because they're actually pretty interesting, gets about 3.5 million active users a day. And X, on the other hand, gets 259 million active users a day, which means that Bluesky is getting 1.35% the users of X.
Yeah.
Or Twitter.
It's so small. It's so small. I didn't realize before going into this just how small it was. I had no idea.
Basically, nobody uses it except for, and I will note that enough of the people who used to participate in like cancellation mobs use it that we have gone viral on Bluesky, like, I don't know, last weekend or something. And we have stopped going viral on Twitter entirely. We used to do this thing called media baiting where we try to freak out progressives. She dressed like a handmaid, right? And then they'd come do some pronatalist piece on us. And then we do something to freak them out. And then we go viral, and it was great for, growing attention, growing interest. And yet it doesn't work anymore. Like literally cancellation stopped working in part because everyone involved in them went to Bluesky. And now they're just yelling at each other.
Although I will say that it's not just like we went viral on it last weekend or last week. There are posts about us from all sorts of time ranges. And there's also this concerted desire in the community to not talk about us, along the lines of that one article saying, stop talking about Simone and Malcolm Collins. One person on Bluesky, Lizzie O'Leary, posted, I think you call it skeeting because you're skying / tweeting. She skeeted, I'm issuing an executive order banning writing about Malcolm and Simone Collins anymore. On February 4th, 2025, which was quite a while ago, actually.
It didn't work because we've gone viral on Bluesky since then.
It really didn't, yeah. And like people just like to go on there and make fun of us for no particular reason. On April 14th, Max posted, whenever I see that one eugenics couple, I think they look like a pair of protractors that were brought to life by a magic wishing star. It's fun.
Brought to life.
By a magic wishing star. Yeah.
I guess I could look like a protractor. I guess he means I'm skinny. He must be in a world where
I think like a protractor, I think they're just thinking like, can I think of a nerdy object and then humanize it with magic? I don't know though. I mean, progressive
you're doing the Yankee thing. So we've been thinking, like, what can I dress as if she's gonna dress as like a pilgrim, like full Japanese Yankee with like the hair back, the whole greaser outfit.
I'm so for it. I'm ready.
I'm still a little too timid to do the full pompadour look, but we'll see. We'll see.
I don't know. Give it time. You have the hair for it. You can get the volume.
I do.
So our podcast even got a shout out on Bluesky.
Really?
Someone radical adjulga / College Hill wrote, Simone and Malcolm Collins, the tech eugenicist couple, just dropped a strong contender for worst podcast of 2025, where they compare gender transition to lobotomies. Which is just
It
fabulous.
is exactly like lobotomies, and it will be viewed in the future that way. We
Well,
now
he
know.
argues clearly the cult here, because we talk about cults in the podcast, is all the trans people and not an insular group of weird venture capitalists who want to create the Ubermensch. They have
Not
such this
want
weird
to.
people view of us that's
don't want-
very.
We're in the process. We're in the process, okay?
Oh, you're not denying, are you? No, don't deny it.
Ubermensch, if we remember what niche was, it's just a self-actualized individual.
Yeah,
Like,
no, and we want human flourishing. That is 100%
it's
what
not
we're going
genetic
for.
perfection. It
Yeah.
just meant being self-actualized and making your own choices about what's right and wrong. That's what it meant to be an Ubermensch,
Yeah.
not basing your morality off of a pre-existing moral set. And I'm like, are we trying to create the Ubermensch? Was that what all of our education
We
stuff?
want a universe full of Uber. What are they? Munchins.
Menchai.
Menchai.
But I love that they're watching our podcast.
Yeah. I mean, fans of the pod, shout out to all of you on Bluesky. Thanks.
Yes. Oh, do you have any other Blueskies that you clipped? These are fun to listen to.
I mean, a lot of them just make fun of our appearance, like the protractors one. Another guy took a screenshot of our podcast with Curtis Yarvin, Jim Stewartson, anti-fascist, he has to let us know. Skeets, Curtis Yarvin and his pals, Simone and Malcolm, are all Peter Thiel pronatalists who believe their DNA is so amazing that they have a responsibility to share their magnificence with the world before we go extinct. They apparently own no mirrors.
Oh, no mirrors?
Yeah, there's this really common thing amongst progressives who apparently aren't eugenicists, that like where they love to imply that we really shouldn't be reproducing because we're ugly.
What? They're literally eugenicists. Like, no,
I know.
It's
great. It's wonderful. I mean, one, they imply that we think that we're genetically better, which we don't, and we wouldn't be using things like genetic testing if we thought we were superior somehow. And two, they're like, but ugly people shouldn't reproduce, right?
Yeah, like obviously ugly people shouldn't reproduce. Like, what are you guys doing? And it's like, whatever. Like, we'll replace you. Whatever. I'm fine with that. We'll replace you. You won't exist anymore. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like we don't mind. Like, this isn't like an actual fight with us because we know that they're self-extinguishing, right? So
yeah, it's not stressful at all.
But I that they're yelling around in their safe space, and I'll put the safe space song here.
People that support me, mixed in with more people that support me and say nice things.
You cannot stop me from getting inside. I am cold and I am hard, and my name is reality.
Oh no, not reality. Somebody stop him.
But I want to, before I get into the numbers, because I actually think the numbers are interesting than the philosophical argument here, which is to look at all of the positives of Bluesky existing, of trapping the progressives in their crystal.
Yeah.
And that is what Bluesky is. It
is the crystal. The crystal happened. Oh my gosh, that is mind-blowing.
It literally happened. We trapped them in a crystal of their own.
We did it, guys. We did it.
Crystal achieved. Elon did it, by the way. Come on, give credit where credit.
I'm sorry. We really, of course.
But anyway, I want to, because the positives, okay? Cancellations can't really happen anymore. Their toxic culture cannot leak into the public discourse as much anymore.
It really doesn't. Yeah.
It really doesn't. Like, you just don't see or hear about it as much outside of the mainstream news organizations, which have become more radicalized, like Drudge Report, Guardian, and stuff like that since the Trump election and win. If you're like, oh no, they can't be that crazy, here's a recent excerpt from a Guardian article about us. Because these people are styling themselves after the supervillains of a Saturday morning cartoon, they are, of course, now deeply influential in the Trump administration. It is not interest in making pregnancy safer or in making child rearing less damaging to women's careers. It is not interest in these, because all of these pursuits are in fact antithetical to the movement's real agenda, which is to encourage primarily white births, to enforce regressive, highly hierarchical and stratified social roles, to push women out of the public sphere, and to narrow women's prospects for social, professional, and intellectual life to little more than pregnancy, childbirth, child rearing, and housekeeping, or as the Collinses might put it, Kinder Kush Kish. That basically she's trying to argue that we're Nazis, although I don't think we've ever said those words. And that's why I feel like this may not have the final point, and Sargon Avocado was making this point, which is people have forgotten how crazy the far left is and how hateful, toxic they are. And I think that he is right about that to an extent. Like, they're not on Twitter where a lot of people are, but they still are in the newspapers. Like, the Drudge Report is still like psychotically toxic.
That's
like
true.
The Guardian is still psychotically toxic, but I think the problem is nobody reads that stuff, because a lot of these organizations, like I think the Guardian even completely withdrew from Twitter and went to Bluesky, which basically means they've got no reach anymore with their accounts, which is like, okay, like, I get that you were being dogpiled now that you didn't have like the control of the platform when you posted things that were untrue, which they do a lot. Like, of all of the most tabloidic writers on us, the Guardian is by far, like, I think we get like actual quote unquote tabloids writing about us, like the New York Post and stuff like this. Never do they make as many factual errors as the Guardian.
That is whoa, that's true. How can that be true? That should not be true.
A few days ago,
the Guardian was where Snowden's leaks were published. That was like gumshoe journalism. That was the good stuff.
Yeah, yesterday. It was yesterday. What was it? Well, to recording of this, it doesn't matter to you guys. But anyway,
yes,
Guardian
recently
on us, and they said that Simone was worried about them coming and taking her room one day, implying that them meant like progressives or like some sort of scary.
Like I have some conspiracy about some unknown faceless.
Yeah, she's like, they will take my womb one day, and like scare quotes, and the actual full quote is, I have to get a C-section every time I have a kid. The maximum number of kids anyone's ever had is 11. Eventually, surgeons will take my uterus in a botched surgery. Not like, but like they're like deliberately twisting reality to attempt to manipulate people.
Well, just to make me look unhinged.
Actually, this is a topic I wanted to talk about that I don't think deserves a full episode, so I'll drop it here, which is my theory called the directionality of, what would I call it?
Oh, reputation. Reputational directionality.
Yeah, reputational directionality, which is to say that within the online environment, all reputations have a directionality attached to them. And if you start universally loved, that directionality is negative, and you will eventually, because the only articles worth writing are on ones where you hate on the person, become universally hated. If you start universally hated, you become universally loved. Or not universally loved, but most of the stuff coming out on you is and that's why early on in sort of our public fame, I leaned so much harder, even than I do today, into the stuff that drew negative controversy, because I wanted to have this universally negative picture of me among the lines of like the people who didn't actually engage with our ideas or anything like that, so that it could be. So if you want to like see examples of this, great examples are, somebody like Harry and Meghan, right? They start absolutely universally loved, and then the only things you can publish on them, or the only things you can say on them, is like, well, subversive, right? And so then they end up completely universally hated, especially because they're trying to control their image so much. Or you start as somebody like, what's an example here that started like universally sort of cringy, and then everybody started to like them. I think
Chappell-Roan, who I don't think you would have heard of, might fall in that category, maybe.
Well, I think the guy Martin Shkreli definitely falls into that category.
Kim Kardashian, way back in the day.
Oh yeah. Oh, the best example of this is Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
Everybody hated Paris Hilton. They thought she was trashy and garbage, and all of the stuff about her was just trashing on her.
She's like, oh wow, she's a smart businesswoman.
The South Park is just about her being a slut, and now everyone's like, she seems pretty based. Like, she seems like a decent, smart businesswoman who is respectable, and I would want to be her friend. And I think that's a great example of this trend. And then some people have been around long enough to go both ways. Or Britney Spears.
Trump has gone both ways for sure.
Yeah, Trump has been around long enough to go for hated, loved, hated. Britney Spears, loved, hated, hated.
You're right.
Loved, hated. Yeah. She starts loved, then everybody hates on her, and how can you like Britney? And then it's like, ooh, this might be a little low for her right now, the sort of point that she's in. I think we need to cheer for her again. And so I think that a lot of people don't consider this when they're building their online fame, and they try too hard to enter the scene loved instead of understanding that entering the scene is where you want to be hated. It's later that you want to be loved. And it makes sense given this contrarian environment. Like, I think we're about at the breaking point. We had yesterday the team that filmed the Harry and Meghan actually documentary for Netflix come over and film a pilot or a sizzle reel for a documentary about us. They're working on Studios Wiz. And I think that if we can get this made, this could be the thing that breaks us over into the average love category. Now, of course, the people on Bluesky will still be screeching and screaming, but they've been trapped.
Well, and
So anyway,
you can still go from hated to love to hated, as is demonstrated by some of the examples we gave.
Now, if we go, it's just the problem is we've always been so reasonable in all of our takes, right? Like the trans is similar to lobotomies. I mean, I think that that's just something that anyone who's engaging with the evidence is like, yeah, it seems about right. It's a commonly used procedure, especially among like Democratic power players like the Kennedy family, that later we learn was just not a good way to deal with body dysmorphia. In the same way, if somebody had body dysmorphia, like they were anorexic, which is another culture-bound illness, which is also disproportionately appears in young women with autism. Just pointing out that you wouldn't remove their uterus to lower their weight just because they liked it happening. You'd be like, that's really toxic. Don't do that. But they do it. So anyway, you've got, or the study, just for people who are new to this podcast, that showed that of people who are of the age of, I think it was 14, who are uncomfortable with their body, by the age they're 23, more than 9 out of 10 of them completely identify as their birth gender if they're not given access to puberty blockers.
Yeah, and because puberty sucks. You can't cure that.
Sure. Yeah. So, but I wanted to talk. So I had labeled all the negative things, right?
Okay.
The negative things are
the crystal,
why it's good, right?
Why it's good. Okay.
Why I can't
positives
remember
of the crystal,
bad or negative. Yeah. The positives, yeah. And then the negatives are that it provides an environment where far left ideas can like fester and become even more extreme and normalized. So when you isolate people with extreme beliefs like this, they can begin to believe these beliefs are normative and okay to hold within like an open world environment. The question was, I think Twitter was already doing that to an extent.
Yeah, I think people were already so siloed. What we saw with progressives, more than with conservatives on X, Twitter, is they would block and mute anyone who didn't hold values and views that they
they'd even build like block lists that they'd share with everyone else.
Right. So it was very easy for people to silence any voice that they found offensive or uncomfortable. So I don't even like, they kind of had their own little version of Bluesky before they created Bluesky.
Oh, it's just that other people still had to listen to them.
Yes. So they had more of a platform before, but they still didn't see other people's views.
That's fascinating. Yeah, okay. I buy that.
And they also had more of a platform because before X was acquired, the more conservatives were censored.
Yeah, the conservatives were just censored on the platform. It's wild for me to think, and this is something that like actually worried me for a bit when I heard that Lotus Eaters was demonetized on YouTube, even still. Yeah. And I was like, what? Why is Lotus Eaters? Lotus Eaters is so tame compared to us.
Yeah.
And then I went and it was like, oh, well, that happened in 2023. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Back when they had more cultural power than they have today. But it was censored because of Sargon of Akkad, who is on Lotus Eaters' other channel instead of his actual work on Lotus Eaters. And I was like, well, that seems really unfair for censoring them based on another channel, but okay. So on the net, what's your take? Is Bluesky good for the right or bad for the right?
I think it's bad for the right because I think the right still needs to have its views regularly challenged. And I think that they need to understand what people with opposing views think. And they're just not being exposed to that enough on X as it stands. There's not enough pushback. And whether or not you'll ever have your mind change or your views moderated by people who oppose you, people you might even really hate, they still help you clarify your own views and values. They still strengthen.
So I'm going to push back on that take.
Really?
Yeah, I think that the people who engaged in like serious argument stayed on X and Twitter.
No.
I think the people who left were the ones who screeched.
No. Thoughtful people who like to debate things online left and went to Bluesky.
Keep in mind, Bluesky is only 1% of the daily users of Twitter. And we'll see when we go to the statistics, people on Bluesky actually interact with the platform a lot less than people on Twitter per session.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
About half as much, yeah.
That is interesting. I still think it's better to have more antagonistic people together in one place.
Okay, so was our account really active before the Bluesky exodus? Yeah, it was. Do you feel like we had more arguments?
Engagement back then?
Yeah.
We had tons more engagement back then. We have like no engagement now. I think most of the interaction with our content was with people who have now gone to Bluesky.
So we were just totally shock jocks.
I guess, yeah. We were almost entirely hate watched.
Which is not the same as our YouTube channel. Or it might be the same, but like they don't upvote videos because our like average upvote rating is like 98%.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I don't think we're hate watched that much here. Because one, you actually have to invest time to hate watch here. And on X, you don't even have to read someone's posts to say something snarky and mean to them. Yep. It's just like, you slap your children, like you don't have to. I could have just posted something about, changing statistics and some population in China, but that doesn't matter. So yeah, you have to invest more. We don't have hate watchers here. They would show up in the comments.
You know what I realized? I haven't checked Facebook in like 6 months. Like I used to be pretty Facebook addicted. It was one of those things I checked every morning.
Yeah. It still has a really active platform for what it is. And I don't know if that's because a lot of people just still use Facebook Messenger and Facebook is referring to them as daily active users. But Facebook has a striking number of daily active users. And I can only assume it's because they're messing with the numbers somehow, because it doesn't seem plausible to me. Yeah, for example, Facebook has 1.03 billion daily active users. Compare that with only 122 million on YouTube. Or 500 million on Instagram.
Facebook has been caught faking their numbers before, by the way.
Yeah, I think they might be combining all of their platforms, but I don't think that's true because, for example, WhatsApp has 2.9 billion. So almost 3 times as much.
So they're lying across all the platforms they own. Like that's not surprising.
Maybe, but
the incident I'm talking about here, when Facebook started Facebook Video, they basically lied to people about how many people were using it, and so a bunch of people went and invested a lot of their careers in trying to build Facebook Video platforms. And then it turned out that Facebook Video is mostly a scam, and nobody was really using it, and so it screwed up a bunch of people's like content creation careers.
Did they provably lie?
Yeah, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they well, because it had to do with eventually, like the ad revenue just wasn't coming in, right? Like they said, oh, we have this many people, and we're not that many people.
That's awful.
So if I put up a Bluesky gross chart here, you can see that they did have a bump between November and December. And they have grown like in the early days significantly. But if you look at like the February versus March numbers, you're looking at 31.5 to 33 million, which is decent growth, but it is teetering off from that initial bump.
No, it is seeing what is considered to be a classic sort of casting or like our slowing down of growth after the initial hype cycle. However, I don't consider that the same, we shouldn't worry about that statistic as people would with other platforms, because I think all the initial growth was really just leached off of Twitter. This wasn't organic growth. This was just all the progressive people at once deciding to leave X. And that wasn't, in my view, earned in the same way that X and Facebook and WhatsApp earned and Snapchat earned their audiences, and TikTok.
Even the heads of Bluesky have said that this isn't real organic growth, and it's not going to continue, and we need to find a way to get people
just
here.
Copied X, and we're like, we're X for progressives. That doesn't. No, you don't get credit for doing that at all.
Here's something you might find interesting: is Bluesky users by age. So
okay, wait. I'm going to guess the majority is between 25 and 40.
No.
What? Okay, who?
By far, the largest category is 18 to 24-year-olds, the youngest age group possible.
That's so
And then the next
strange.
largest is 25 to 34-year-olds, the next youngest. If you go 35 to 44, you're looking at only about 15%.
So it's a younger platform, but not
It's a
maybe.
very young platform.
Well,
yeah.
TikTok's younger. I think as much of a third of TikTokers are 14 years old or younger. It's a very young
But
platform.
here's what's going to shock you. Bluesky is not just overwhelmingly male, but more male than X.
Guy is more male than how?
Yeah, so Bluesky is 62.04% male. X is 60.9%. So it basically 60% versus 62% X to Bluesky. In fact, Bluesky is one of the most male platforms there are. If you order platforms by how male they are, it goes Discord 66%,
Okay.
Reddit 63%, Bluesky 62%, X 60%, Telegram 57%, Facebook 56%, Quora 56%.
What about Twitch? Come on.
LinkedIn 56. Hold on, it's more male than YouTube, which is 54%.
Huh.
No,
Yeah. Twitch is 63% men, so Twitch is also at the top. So come on, you have to.
Yeah, Twitch. Does anyone use Twitch? Twitch is like weird, like lefty cuckman. Like there's like this weird category of like male that like I
I
don't
don't
even
know. I feel like a lot of the
male.
streamers that are on YouTube have, like, they do the recording on Twitch and then they publish later on YouTube, and it's just kind of a 2-for-1. And so they're very active on there, and they have active audiences that just want someone to keep them company.
Asmongold does that, I think, and I think
absolutely. And I think a lot of YouTubers do that as well.
Does that.
Mhm.
Leaflet actually is a separate team publisher. If you watch our episode with her, we're big fans.
She's awesome.
Yeah, she just seems so endearing. Like I watch some other VTubers, and we might do other collabs with VTubers, but none of the female VTubers are as endearing as Leaflet. I was actually talking with Simone about this. I get the impression that these other ones like have like OnlyFans accounts or whatever, and I was like, yeah, but Leaflet definitely doesn't. She doesn't give that vibe. But hold on, I gotta keep going with my interesting statistics. The US has the largest proportion of Bluesky visitors, 42.27%.
Wow.
I was really surprised about that. Here's another one that surprised me. On average, each Bluesky user visits approximately 8 pages per session. Contrast that with X, it's 12 pages per session.
That's interesting.
In fact, X, if you're looking at like per session, is the top of the engagement list. So if you go by platform, X is 12.26, Facebook 11.74, Instagram 11.52, YouTube 10.91, then way down is Bluesky at 7.91. Only lost to Snapchat, TikTok, and Reddit. By the way, I was surprised that Reddit was more male than Bluesky or X.
No, I'm not. There's a lot of women on both. Yeah.
You want to go over top accounts on Bluesky?
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, who's big on Bluesky?
Okay, Bluesky's big on Bluesky. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. Then the largest real account on Bluesky with 1.98 million followers is AOC.
Okay. Setting the tone here. Gotcha.
Under that is Cucked Elon, which is Mark Cuban.
What?
Yeah, he's like a lefty version of Elon, which is interesting because he used to position himself as like a righty politician.
Right? Yeah.
I could actually see him running for president in the next cycle. He could do well. He's like uncucked enough.
Power to the people.
Could do well if he's like a new right person pretending to be a lefty.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Next, George Takei.
Okay. Yeah.
Next is Mark Hamill.
What?
The guy who played Luke Skywalker.
I know, but why? What does he have to say? Why does anyone care what Mark Hamill has? He must have some good hot takes.
I don't know. He's like famous in like a deranged lefty, and maybe that appeals.
So he's just fun, unhinged hot takes.
Yeah. Next is The Onion. I didn't know they were still around.
Okay. All right.
I love it that like Babylon Bee has genuinely replaced The Onion in the eyes of the public. Like they're bigger than the Onion now, right? Like the Onion doesn't do anything anymore. Like the Onion used to be so funny and like everyone would do stuff with it, and now it's all Babylon Bee, which is like the right-leaning version. And we'd actually reach out to the guy who runs it. A cool organization. They're a Mormon organization, right? Like that's where the bee
Are
comes
they?
from, right? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the Babylon Bee. Hold on.
Adam Ford is the founder. Is Adam Ford Mormon? No, doesn't seem like it. He's he's an ordained Anglican priest.
Anglican.
Yeah, who knew Anglicans do anything? There's one. We've got one Anglican who
Just
does
be a
something.
Catholic. Just be a Catholic, okay? Like I'm not even that pro-Catholic, but Anglican. Come on.
tried really hard. There was a whole thing, you know.
This is like when Stephen Colbert said that being an agnostic is just being an atheist for people without balls. Being an Anglican is just being a Catholic for people without balls. Sorry, I don't mean this. I don't mean to insult our Anglican, but I'm just like the actual history of the Anglican movement. Like it's meant to be like Catholic, right? Like it's just a recreation of Catholicism with a centralized church, but just with a separate centralized. I don't know. Sorry, I don't mean to be too. After the Onion, and I love that this is after the Onion. Sorry, we're so insulting to even like conservative Christians. I hope we don't lose all our Anglican followers over this.
Well, we're insulting to ourselves enough too. Yeah. One hopes.
Under the Onion is the New York Times. I love it among progressives. You got the Onion, and then you got the New York Times. Come on,
whatever. Yeah.
Next is Stephen King.
Okay.
Yeah, he's very. Next is Midas Touch. I don't know what Midas Touch is. Next is Rachel Maddow. Okay, and then next is NPR. I love Rachel Maddow beats NPR. NPR is so sad to me. They're just like, you know, when you've got on NPR, they've been so low energy. So like, we went to this like NPR like in-person filming thing. Do you remember when we went to that with like those people who took us? And we were like out on a field by Philadelphia. It was like
no. Yeah, no. We watched an in-person. We were in the audience of Wait, Don't Tell Me, which is it's not exactly NPR. It's I think Chicago Public Radio, but yeah. It's one of their very long running game shows. What an interesting audience. It was such a thing. It was so, for progressive audience, it was so weirdly Jewish. Like, and also Wait, Don't Tell Me is such a Jewish show. And so it's just so odd now that we live in this age where there's so much anti-Semitism
on the progressive side. Yeah.
On the progressive side. And yet you have this super, super Jewish show. So yeah, I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the progressive Jews aren't having kids, not in large numbers. They're, you know, 2 generations from extinction.
Yeah. Well, what you gonna do?
Oh no. Anyway, so your thesis is still it's a net bad because we're not engaging with the outsider perspective as much.
Yeah, I don't like seeing siloed networks like this, unless it's a dating network and they're just trying to find people value aligned to do stuff together, but they're not doing stuff together. That's not the impression I get from Bluesky. So I don't see that as being valuable or helpful. If this is a place for online discourse, it should be a place that is as ideologically diverse as possible. And that's why I also like X a little bit less now than I did before, because there's less ideological diversity. But I think that it's improved. I mean, Grok is amazing. I like the algorithm more now. I think that it's more interesting. So when I go on it now and I go to whatever feed I go to, whether it's just
Grok is like high tier now. Like what? Yeah. Like it makes sense that, you know, it was trained on X data, and I appreciate that they did the acquisition and freaked out all the progressives. That Grok, if you don't know, now owns Twitter. And everybody who invested in the Twitter acquisition came out on top because of that.
It's a win. Yeah. But not being trapped in the crystal. Not
I'm hearing good things about Gemini AI, by the way. Apparently, some people are saying
people are ranting and raving about it now. I haven't tried it.
I still haven't reused it, so I should probably.
I'm still traumatized from it not handling basic math, but I know we've gone very far.
Well, and it being super racist when they first launched it.
Oh yeah, no, that was fun. I would go to see that, you know, to see all the BIPOC Nazis. But,
yes, you create a crowd of Nazis and they're all black, and it's like, what? Why did you think this was a good idea?
It's great. It's perfect. Yeah, you go for that. It's the math that threw me off, but
And now Google's like removing Pride months and everything from its calendar, which I
they
love.
are? No.
No, well, it doesn't have any of the nonsense holidays in its calendar anymore. Only like mainstream religious holidays.
No.
Which makes sense. Anyway, I love you to death, Simone. What do you think about the most Blue Sky members being male thing, like more than Twitter?
I really don't know what to make of that. Maybe it's that the most angry people on Twitter who were very active were male.
Maybe, yeah, because they thought they were signaling and maybe getting something out of it. And yeah, I can see that.
But I really don't know what to make of it, to be honest with you. Gender skewing of platforms is so odd. And what the weirdest thing that I heard of, which we got from the documentary team yesterday, is that Pinterest is now seeing this huge surge. Like it's making a comeback, but amongst who? But like prepubescent male users who are using it to make like Stranger Things and It meme boards, like the clown It, the scary freaking clown.
I love that young males are still into horror.
I love that young males are somehow on Pinterest. Like I don't know how their staff is dealing with this. Like I don't know if they know what to do with this after years and years of wedding boards and hairstyle boards and dream bathroom remodel boards. Suddenly it's like It memes, and they're like, how do they monetize it, right? This is very interesting. But yeah, the 11-year-old son of one of the producers who was here at our house yesterday, apparently just that's where he spends his time. Not on Minecraft, not on TikTok, on freaking Pinterest. Nothing makes sense about young people.
Well, I will say, when I was a young male, you might not know this. So my family, my mom wasn't around much during a certain time when I was like young, like in that preteen age. But we lived near a Blockbuster, and I was allowed to go and rent movies whenever I wanted. And the core section that I rented movies from was horror. Like that was the main thing that I watched.
Why?
I just loved horror movies during that period. Especially they were good. I was just remembering one that I loved as a kid, Deep Star 6, for anyone who liked that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I not the best. The best horror movie I've seen that I'd recommend if you like, horror. Ginger Snaps 2 is the best horror movie ever made. Not 1, ignore 1. It's not very good. If you're not going to watch 2, watch 3. They're all standalone stories, so don't worry about it. But yeah, no, horror needs like good characters and plot and like it makes sense and everything like that. Yeah, I'm all about like genuine.
Oh, you watch it for the
horror.
plot, do you?
And cheesy good horror. Okay, and I love that. If they're like it is not good. By the way, it is not good horror.
I don't care if it's good or bad. If there's clowns, I'm out.
What was the other thing that they were made? It was it or
Stranger Things, which is fine.
Stranger Things is good horror. Stranger Things is one of the best modern properties made in the past 10 years or something like that.
It's great. Yeah,
spectacular.
Absolutely. Wholesome fun for the whole family.
Yeah. Anyway, love you to death, Simone.
I love you too, gorgeous.
A spectacular day. And all of you out there have a spectacular day. I really hope things go well for you, and I really hope that you achieve your dreams.
Yeah, for real. Actually, we want to see human flourishing. So do your jobs, people. Get it done.
Yeah, get out there and flourish, you nerds.
Dinners for closers. I love you.
Love you too.
Oh gosh,
You going to Twitter?
I'm sorry, Mama. I wanted to tell you.
You off gallivant with your fancy
the right
friends at Twitter while I'm sitting here all day with nobody to keep me company except
Blue Sky.
The chickens are coming home to roost, Bobby Boucher. You reap the fruit of your selfish ways. You gonna lose all your fancy
elections.
And you're gonna fail your big exam because Twitter is
a Nazi.
Everything is
a Nazi.
to you, Mama! Well, I like
Twitter
and I like
the right.
And I'm gonna keep doing them both because they make me feel good. And by the way, Mama...
Women don't have penises.
And I
Trump.
Dash me back!